Good evening, everyone. It is Sunday, January 12th, 2025. Hopefully, you're doing well. Today, I wanted to make a quick video on thinking about my 20s and how I want my 30s to be different. Over the last few months, I've been really thinking about how I want to structure my life differently in my 30s than in my 20s. If I could describe my 20s in one word, it would be the word work. But this really resulted in me missing out on things like concerts, time with friends, family functions, etc. I could have had a lot more of an enjoyable life. And when we're young, unless you're maybe a tradesperson or a professional like a programmer, your total income is going to be fairly kind of small to the medium range. So you might have to work that overtime, right? And I think that's overclocking. Maybe that's right for you. And if you want to learn more about overclocking, check out my video below. Um, However, you only want to work extra hours as much as you need to. And this is something I really screwed up. There were times where I knew it was time for a change. I knew I was ready to go back to school, but because I was insecure in myself, I kind of delayed that decision. And that has cost me a few years in terms of professional development. Like I knew I was ready to go, but I just didn't want to go yet. But I should, if I had enough confidence like I do now, I would have gone immediately. And I would have had that experience. Next, kind of with that theme in point one, is I would give myself permission to enjoy life. Now, I don't want to discredit my 20s. There was plenty of times where, I got to see friends and travel to unique places, had some good relationships and some bad ones, and just learned a lot through my 20s as well. But there was many times where I just kind of programmed myself to keep working. And I think work was an escape for me. I really didn't want to see myself as a lazy person. Um, and maybe this is something I can talk about in a future video, but throughout my 20s, I kind of had an assumption that most Canadians are really lazy. And I just didn't want to belong to that group of people. I didn't want to have that label on me. So I pushed myself. And really, this is just an excuse in a way. Um, it's not beneficial unless you absolutely need the cash. And then, okay, yeah, go for it. But a lot of times, it's really just an escape because you're hiding from something else. And that's what I learned. Um, and this brings me to my third point. I was really running from a lot of my own personal development. I was scared of failing at things that I really wanted to pursue. Now, one of the reasons why I didn't try many new things throughout my 20s was because I was so focused on work. Oh, I can't learn how to ski or salsa dance. I'm so busy working 80, 90 hours a week. Even if I didn't need the cash, I would still work because I was scared to fail at trying a new activity or job or industry. And you know what? If you catch yourself in that type of mentality, if you really sit down and ask yourself, okay, why am I working so much? Do I actually need this cash? And perhaps you do, no discredit there. But if you don't 100% need it, perhaps you're kind of running away for something. So I would pose anyone maybe in the early to mid 20s to kind of reflect on that as well. The next thing I want to share is I wish I learned how to let go of things earlier. So it might be cliche to think, okay, when something doesn't serve you anymore, to let go of it. But honestly, this is a lot harder than it seems. Now, there are times when we have to buckle down and persevere. And as Aaron Clary says, embrace the suck. And that's totally normal. But once you're out of that predicament or once you've hit that goal you have, why keep embracing it? Well, like, honestly, what do you have to learn? And the truthful answer is there's nothing to learn. So if it doesn't serve you anymore, just let go of it. It's not always easy to end things. It feels comfortable and predictable to be in the same situation, even if it doesn't serve us. But honestly, if you want to grow and you want to pursue your life and become the person you want, this is something you have to do. It's not optional. So whether this is a job, a relationship, or even maybe like a connection with a family member, if it's not a good one, healthy one, maybe perhaps you have to think about ending those things. And this brings me to my fifth point. Once you've freed up your time and you've ended those bad relationships, the next thing I would do is to make time for things that do fill your cup. Have time for things that you could pursue. So whether this is learning a new language, dancing, martial arts, what have you, make time for it and just enjoy your life. So for me, sometimes you see maybe some paintings on the wall back there. One of the things I actually enjoy to do is to paint. I have no background in painting. I have no training. I don't have any artists in my family. Um, but I just said, you know what? Screw it. Let me buy some paints at the dollar store, some cheap brushes, and go at it. How much is a canvas? $5? Or sometimes you just find them for free and just paint over it, right? Like, what's the cost? Nothing. And if you can use that to just enjoy yourself, and it's a kind of like a good creative venture, right? And you're creating something. If you're not doing it for like money, then why not, right? This point really goes into the idea of letting go of things that you already know for things that you want to become. So one thing for myself was I really wanted to actually make YouTube videos for quite a long time, but I was always nervous and always in my head, oh, who's going to watch my videos? Why would anyone care? No one's going through the same things. Or what do I have to offer really people for being in my 20s? Right? What can I actually offer the world? And if it's something you want to do, try exploring it. I don't know if this will be successful, but I just do it for fun. And you don't know until you try, right? So sometimes we have to let go of our perception of things in order for us to become a bit better. Let me give you an example. Say you want to be a traveler, say you want to go backpacking and explore all these new areas. But you say, oh, Mike, I don't have the time or the money. If you work in a professional job, it's very common nowadays to have what they call like mental health breaks. Whether you agree with these or not, these are sometimes paid or unpaid times off where you can take up to a few months, maybe even up to a year with and still have your job when you come back. So if your fear of pursuing this goal of traveling abroad is driven by the fact that you might not have a job when you return, talk to your boss. You'll be surprised. They might only be able to offer you a month or maybe up to a year, but unless you ask, you don't actually know. Okay, so maybe your goal isn't as lofty as traveling the world. Maybe you want to apply this maybe to a hobby instead. So let me use one of my own examples. For the longest time, I've always wanted to get into archery, but throughout my 20s, I didn't have the cash available to actually buy all the equipment. Bows are expensive, arrows can be expensive depending on what you get, and honestly, I just wasn't really that knowledgeable. Until I actually looked into it, there's actually classes nearby, maybe a 20-minute drive from me. And you can do drop in for about $10 a class. And this includes your bow, your arrows, and a safety instructor. So maybe it's not a perfect substitute, but it's good enough. And you're also socializing with people and you're fulfilling that need as well. So what's my excuse not to try it out? There really isn't any. So take this type of thinking and evaluate towards your own goals. Like maybe something seems like a big lofty goal that you can't reach towards, but when you break it down, you really can. So always evaluate things. And my last point today is I wouldn't be so concerned about my previous mistakes. You know, sure, there's going to be times where you just frankly screw up and you could have done something better. But you know what? You can always learn from it, right? So take a second, breathe, everything's okay. You're not dead, you're not missing a limb, hopefully not. And just relax. Think about what happened. What can you do better next time? And honestly, even if the same mistake happens again, just say, you know what, this is a part of life. Mistakes and kind of screwing up is a part of life. And it's actually how we grow as well. So don't be so harsh on yourself. And if it does happen again, screw it. Just move on, right? What's the problem? We can't rewrite time, so all we can do is relax. Life isn't that serious. I've enjoyed reflecting about my 20s and how I want my life to look differently in my 30s. So if you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. Perhaps you're older and you have some wisdom you can offer me and some of the younger viewers. And perhaps you're younger and you have some questions for me going into my 30s. So yeah, love to hear it. Leave a like if you've enjoyed it. And I'll leave you with this. The future starts with today. That's it for today. This is Mikey signing out. Adios.